If you're into classic gaming, let's plays, and reviews, check out our friends over at the Retromancers. Subscribe to their channel and watch their awesome content. I will leave a link to the channel down in the description. Christopher Nolan, the creator of the Dark Knight Trilogy, Memento, Inception, Interstellar, and several other big movies, has recently expressed interest in creating an Akira trilogy, an Akira motion picture trilogy based on the original manga from Katsuhiro Otomo. And I want to talk about the possibilities of this happening on this edition of Geekdom Movie Talk. That's the topic that we're going to get to. And Geekdom Movie Talk is, of course, a series where I examine the past, present, and future of geeky movies. And joining me on this edition of Geekdom Movie Talk, the realest motherfucker in the anime community and probably the most knowledgeable anime person with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a lungs and a kidney, but no heart. He has no heart. Please welcome Hail ZEON. Hello, ZEON.
I'm back, bitches, by popular demand.
Well, it's your first time on Geek the Movie Talk, but you've been around.
On your channel, I am back by popular demand.
Yes, very popular demand, and the demand came from me because there's literally nobody I would rather talk to about Akira than you. So there you go. Now, let's talk about it. So, okay. Akira. Film came out in the 80s. The original anime came out in the 80s. It was a huge. In fact, I'm going to let you talk about it. Talk about the importance of the original Akira 1988 anime when it comes to popularizing anime and manga in the West.
In the US, obviously, it is one of those staple films of an anime. Like, you have, the Ghibli films, you have Ghost in the Shell, and you have Akira. Those are the things that really popularized anime in the States before the big boom in the late 90s when Toonami hit.
And Pokemon. So, Pokemon
yes.
was the big one also in the late 90s.
Yeah, because Toonami pretty much was right next to Pokemon. That blew it into the mainstream. But as far as introducing anime to a Western audience, Akira was one of the very first films to do that.
Now, Akira, the original film, is a classic. A lot of experts, even people who aren't even anime fans, people who are just film fans, have looked at Akira as a masterpiece. However, there's some stuff we got to talk about here because Akira essentially is not a direct adaptation of the original manga. There are some differences between the manga and anime because the anime takes only a small chunk of the story and adapts it into the movie. So, in your opinion, do you have an issue with this? I want to talk about Nolan here in a moment, but do you have an issue with them not telling the entire story, or do you think it works for one self-contained movie?
Well, the thing with that is, I don't think a lot of people are aware of 2 things about that movie. One, it was made while the manga was still in production. So there wasn't those extra volumes of manga even made.
Okay.
2, the director and writer for the film is Katsuhiro Otomo, the man who made the manga.
So essentially, it's his story. He's adapting it himself, in other words, what you're saying.
Yeah, he adapted his own manga that he was in the middle of working on, stopped working on his manga to make that movie, and then went on to finish his manga. So it's still his version. It's still his telling of the story. So it's just as valid. And even if it wasn't his telling, like someone else came and made the manga, even if the manga had been completed, I don't think there's anything wrong with altering source material to adapt it to a specific medium. There's nothing wrong with that because sometimes what works on paper does not work on film or animation or whatever. It's different mediums, and you have to adjust for whatever medium you're adapting to.
Yes, that's a very good point. Now, with the Akira trilogy, okay, do you feel that Nolan will and should adapt? Because the story that we're hearing is that he wants to do a trilogy, not one movie. And if you know Chris Nolan's body of work, you know that he does long-ass fucking movies, 3-hour movies. So we're talking about 3 3-hour movies, maybe a little more. Do you think that this go around he's going to be able to, and I'm going to ask you more questions, but this is the first question, he should and will be able to adapt the entire story of Akira?
As a trilogy, yeah, he should be able to hit all the major beats of the manga, which is probably why it's a trilogy and not just like a single self-contained film. For a single self-contained film, I would say just go the route that the the anime did, just adapt a chunk of the story and then make huge adjustments. Here, if you're going to do a trilogy, you can get all the major story beats and character beats of the manga into a film, I would say.
Can an Akira movie be feasible without it being a mess? Because let's look at the history of anime live action film adaptations. It's very checkered, okay? Do you think Nolan's the right guy, and do you think that it's possible to do it correctly and the right way now?
Yes, I think you. I think you're at any point in history you can make good adaptations. I mean, a lot of people go, "Oh, you can't adapt Japanese cinema." Two of the most famous films of Western cinema is The Magnificent Seven and A Fistful of Dollars. They are Western adaptations of Seven Samurai and Yojimbo.
Yeah, well, not to mention
We have been doing this shit since what, the fucking 60s? Yeah.
I mean, let's not forget that Star Wars borrows heavily from the Dark Fortress. I mean, there's tons of things like that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is nothing new, and we have made great films. Speed Racer, I think, is a phenomenal movie. The Wachowskis totally killed it with that. It was awesome. Anyone who wants to argue with me, I will have a fucking street fight with. I'll bust a fucking beer bottle over your head. I ain't gonna take no fucking bad talk about that goddamn movie. The movie was perfect. Eat a dick.
All right. Will Akira top it, though? If Nolan does it right, will the live-action Akira... I mean, it's too soon to tell, but does it have the potential to top it? In other words, do you think the story of Akira... I think the story of Akira is much more dense and much deeper and much more rich than Speed Racer.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. My thing with Nolan is he writes very cold characters. Very cold characters.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
They're very emotionally detached, or they're not like emotionally detached. Like they are characters that struggle with conveying their emotions.
Yeah, well, a good example of that. I mean, I just want to add one quick thing. It is also David S. Goyer, who is very polarizing, as well as Jonathan Nolan, who also writes it. So we don't even know who's writing this thing, but I assume it's going to be Jonathan Nolan. I assume.
Yeah. That's usually what happens. It's usually him. It's usually like Nolan and his brother, maybe Goyer. That seems to be like the trend.
Do you think that Otomo will be involved in this? I feel like he almost has to be.
I would think there's a good possibility, especially since it's Nolan. Nolan seems to have like a lot of respect for others in his field. I think that's also why, for something like The Dark Knight or Batman Begins, he got in David S. Goyer, someone who knows comic books, someone who's been involved in that medium for a while. So, I would like to think that he would want to get, especially if Ultimo wanted to be involved. If he wanted to be involved, I think he would. I think Nolan would just be like, yes, please give us insight, give us feedback. But I mean, I don't think his involvement is necessary, but it would be nice if they got him.
Yes, I think it would be. I think unless there's a power struggle, which seems to happen all the time, I think it would be good. And one thing I will agree with you on is you're right. This movie could have been made at any time. In fact, I actually kind of preferred. It's too late now, but let's pretend we all had a time machine. I kind of would have preferred if they made this movie in the 80s, even though obviously the manga came out in the 80s, but in an alternate universe with the 80s style kind of noir, dark cyberpunk kind of filmmaking, like that kind of style.
Runner.
Blade Runner's a good example. Yeah, that kind of style.
Akira is very visually influenced by Blade Runner. I mean, Blade Runner is cyberpunk and like cyber noir. So yeah, I think that really does go to influence pretty much everything that's been made in that field since then.
So you think now, in your opinion, if they make it a trilogy, do you think they should do volumes 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and then 5 and 6, and then combine them like that, 2, 2, and 2 for each movie?
It's been a really long time since I've seen since I've read the manga, so I don't know how that story would break up if you broke it up that way. I think you might have to probably adapt from make changes here and there, so that way the films have good beginning and end points. Because I would really hate to have kind of was like a fucking Hobbit situation where the movie just ends and you're like, well, that was anticlimactic as fuck. And then you get to the next one, and then, well, that was anticlimactic as fuck. And then it's just the third film just all climax.
Yeah, sounds like my sex life.
So yeah,
one step forward and two steps back.
But yeah, yeah, it all depends on how they go about adapting it. Like I said, I haven't read the manga in years, but the manga was fantastic. I think you could totally adapt that into, especially if you're gonna do like say like three 2.5 hour long films. I really think you could adapt pretty much the entire manga doing that. Whether or not Nolan will be the right guy, like I said, like Nolan writes very cold characters, and
I feel like
Akira's...
David Fincher would probably be a better choice, or actually Steve Proyas. Proyas would be great because he did The Crow and he did Alien 3, the original cut. I mean, he fucked that up, but no, still he did The Crow and Dark City. I think that Dark City reminds me of Akira.
Yeah, but he also did Gods of Egypt recently.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what he's thinking. I haven't seen it yet, but it looks
goofy. I don't trust. Like, I haven't seen the movie. I've heard reviews for it, and I've seen the trailers, and I'm like, this is just a CGI fest. It's a video game on film.
Yeah, which is what I hope Akira is not. But Nolan doesn't seem like the kind of guy who overdoes CGI. I mean, he doesn't overdo CGI.
No. He keeps CGI to the barest minimum. Like, whatever he can get away with practically, he will do practically, which is why I love Nolan. My thing is, I feel like Nolan will lack kind of the 80s noir flair and like that, because he, like I said, he writes very cold characters, and he also has a very muted sensibility to visuals. He always kind of brings it down to a very realistic level,
which I think will work with Akira.
I think so too, but Akira is also it's also very vibrant and colorful. It is, it is very much that 80s cyberpunk noir. So you have neons, and you have this very bright, vibrant city that's also very dark and gritty and dingy once you get to the ground levels of it. And I don't know if he'll really be able to bring that to film, or if he'd even want to bring that to film, if he would just want to do his own thing. He might look at that and go, oh, well, that 80s aesthetic is really dated, and try to do something completely different.
Yeah, I mean, now, do you think that fans of the original 88 movie will dislike that? Number one. Number two, do you think there's going to be people who are going to hate the fact that it's even being done? Because I've already seen some message board threads of people saying that they should not even make it live action. And the thing is, I feel like I agree that a lot of anime should not be made live action. I do agree with that. But I think Akira is one of the few that I think is very possible it can be done right.
Yeah, it is definitely grounded enough that you can totally do it. I mean, there's no reason to not have it live action. I think it's just those people who are just kind of like elitist cunts who are just going, oh, you can't make anime live action and make it good. Fuck that. And the same people who are saying like, oh, like Americans can't make a good anime adaptation film. Even though the Japanese butcher it just as badly as we do sometimes.
Actually, yeah, many times worse. So before we get out of here, ZEON, if you were the casting director, who plays Kaneda? Who plays Tetsuo?
Okay. I really don't have casting choices just because I feel if you're going to make this movie, if you're going to call it Akira and you're going to make this movie, I think it needs a Japanese cast.
Really?
Really? Yes. Because
that's probably not going to happen because you know how the studios are.
Yeah, and see, this is my biggest issue with Akira, is that if you're going to make the movie and you're going to call it Akira, you're going to have the character Akira in it, and you're still going to call that character Akira, then you're going to... I feel that the whole thing needs to be set in Neo Tokyo.
But they might change to Neo New York or some bullshit like that, right?
Yeah, which honestly would be hilarious because Neo means new, so because then you have literally...
New York. The Toriyama pun.
So yeah... that would be so terrible, and I don't want, because at that point, if you're gonna change all the characters' ethnicities, you're changing their if you're gonna change all their ethnicities, then you're gonna be changing all their names. Then why still have Akira be Akira? Why not just change Akira's name to something else to fit the fact that this is now a Western story? Jimmy. The thing is that you can't. But unfortunately, they're not gonna do that because Akira, that name, that's the iconography. Yep. That is, if it's not called Akira, people aren't going to fucking watch it, unfortunately.
Yeah, unless they just change the names of the characters, but keep the Akira tone, like what Akira is. I don't know. It's weird, but I have a feeling that even though I agree with you, the studio is going to go with a primarily Caucasian cast because that's how it is in Hollywood. That's just how it is. Now, as long as it's not as racist as the Ghostbusters trailer is, I'll be okay with it.
Oh my god.
I don't want to have somebody in there. Oh, good lord, there's Akira. Child. I don't want that in this movie. Nolan would never do it though.
Right. Yeah, Nolan's too good for that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm very mixed on this. I would love to see a fantastically well-made Akira film. Honestly, I feel what we need to fucking do is stop trying to... if we're gonna, whitewash a film, I'm not horribly opposed to it. Just, if you're going to do it, don't make it... don't whitewash a film where it's really important for the cast to be a specific ethnicity. If, like the new Ghost in the Shell movie that they're working on, that's in, development hell right now. I don't really care if Major Kusanagi is a white chick or not, because Major Kusanagi is a fucking android. Who gives a shit? She's a cyborg.
It could be anything, really.
Yeah, that's fine. You want to, she could be an Asian chick's brain and a white girl's body. I mean, seriously, what woman wouldn't want to have Scarlett Johansson for a body?
I agree. I even want that body. I'm a dude.
Seriously, yeah. You just play with those titties all day long. You're never gonna get work done. Your YouTube channel would collapse and you'd go broke, and then you'd have to. Your cyborg body would get repossessed.
Well, no. What I would do, ZEON, is I would leave YouTube and go to myfreecams.com and just make money off of that instead.
There we go.
There you go.
The thinking man solution.
Thinking woman. All right. Well, thank you, ZEON, for being on. Everybody, check out Hail ZEON for limitless anime knowledge. I mean, we've only scraped the surface of what this man has in his head and the deep, dark crevices of his fantasies, which I don't even know if I want to explore that. I'll put the link down below to his channel. Check out, of course, he does the Dragon Ball stuff, but it goes way beyond Dragon Ball. There's other anime covered on the channel as well. And, we look forward to Akira if it gets done, if it actually gets made. He wants to make it, but nothing's been confirmed yet. Let's hope it gets made and it gets made right.
Agreed.
All right, we'll catch you down the road. Oh, and before we go, of course, leave your comments down below and let me know what you think of Akira. And I want to know if you've seen the original. I'm sure that the majority of you have, but there's a lot of younger people who haven't. And if you haven't seen it, you should try to see it. It's on Blu-ray. I think it was actually on Netflix for a while. I could be wrong on that. Go check it out. We'll catch you then.